Hello and welcome back to the Social Media Magic Podcast. My name is Brittany Verlinich. I'm a content strategist, social media manager, total marketing nerd, and I'm the host of this show. And it is not lost on me that you are choosing to spend some minutes or hours of your week listening to my content, following me on Instagram, whatever you do, wherever you are. Thank you so much. It really does mean the world to me. I love creating and I feel grateful and privileged because we really do have such a privilege and honor as content creators, as creative entrepreneurs and business owners, that this is our job, that we get to share what we're working on, that we get to share what worked for us in our classrooms, what worked for us in our niches. Like, what a beautiful, amazing thing that we can do. So today I'm going to be answering a question that you might have, even though you haven't asked it like this. I usually see something along the lines of, what's going on with the Facebook algorithm? Is it still worth it to post on a page? I can't get engagement up in my group. And really, they kind of all fall under the same question. Is Facebook dead? Or is it still worth it to post on Facebook anymore, especially if I'm focusing on driving sales to my TPT store, to my Etsy shop, to my Shopify store, to my Amazon KDP products? I'm going to answer that myself at the end of this episode, but I just want you to know that all of these tactics, all of these platforms, you have to be so careful what you watch and consume, what you listen to, who you listen to, because anytime somebody tells you a certain platform is dead or thriving, always look at their motivation, right? And I encourage you to do the same thing for me. Always look at the motivation behind a piece of content. I think it's good for us as marketers to be thinking about that, because even if you don't consider yourself a marketer, you are wearing that marketing hat until and unless you can outsource marketing to someone else. So anytime we learn something, we always have to run what we're learning, what we're hearing through the filter of who's saying it, what is their motivation to do so, do they have any products or services related to what they're saying. I think I've been really forthright with you all that here at Verity Media, we offer services, we have products, we have memberships, right? We have all of these things that you can buy, that you can order, that you can book, that you can join. And I always try to be really transparent in my sales. I really do believe that's the most ethical way for us to sell, is to be upfront with it, to not try to hide it, to not try to slide something in at the last minute saying that we have something on sale. Let's be upfront with it, and we can still treat people like human beings. We can still be kind, and we can still be ethical in our marketing. I really do believe that. But we do have to consider, because we're also consumers, because we're also buying things, who is saying this message? Why are they saying this message? What is this message even really saying? For example, in the past couple of years, SEO, search engine optimization, has changed a lot. I know I've used this example often on this podcast, so I do apologize if you've heard me say it many times, but I do think it bears repeating because we have to look at why people are saying SEO doesn't work anymore. And also, what does SEO look like, right? What is SEO? How have people been using it? Is SEO as a total concept and idea dead? Or have people just been using not best practices? Or have best practices changed? People are always changing. The consumer market's always changing. So it only makes sense that whatever we're doing right now that's working, it's not going to work in the future. And just because something worked in the past doesn't mean it's going to work in the future. We can't make that assumption. We shouldn't be stressed out or surprised if and when things change. Algorithms change. Platforms change. Revenue streams change. These companies are going to make decisions based on their best interest, based on the interest of their shareholders. If they're publicly traded, we always have to think about that. With all that in mind, let's answer this question. Is Facebook really dead this time? And first, before I share my editorial opinion and let you form yours, I just want to share the facts. So let's look at the facts first. As of when I'm recording this episode in September of 2024, Facebook is the most widely used marketing and social media platform in the world, which is wild to think about. It's used globally with over 3 billion with a B users, and with just over 8 billion people in the world total, that means 1/3 to 1/2 of the people here on this planet at this very time are on Facebook, which is really incredible and amazing when you think that Facebook is a product, a business that started in the Bay Area. And it's not that old, right? It's only 20 or so years old as of when I'm recording this podcast. So is Facebook dead as a platform? That fact already shows us, well, no, there are many people using it. So the next logical question you might ask is, well, how often are people using it? How much time are people spending on the platform? Maybe they're just not on there for as much time anymore. Well, let's look at that. This was a pretty staggering statistic, and I'll be sure to try to remember to link all these because I know I'm sharing them as facts and I want to make sure I'm giving credit where credit's due. But according to this report, Facebook users on average, now we know An average is a mean. That means there are many people who are spending less time, many people who are spending more time, but on average, Facebook users are spending almost 20 hours a month on the platform. If you want to get more specific, 19 hours and 47 minutes, which is still just blowing my mind right now. That is a part-time job, right? Like 20 hours is an amount that many of you probably wish you had to work on your businesses, especially if you still have a full-time job, especially if you have some other kind of side hustle or something that takes up a lot of your time. I mean, who wouldn't want 20 more hours to do just anything, not even business related, but like for sleep, for fun? That's a really huge chunk of time. And what is really staggering to me is to think about, okay, what about the people who are actually spending more time? And just to be fair, I can't remember if this specific one, because now I've looked at a lot of numbers, I can't remember if this one was self-reported or if this is from Meta themselves looking at user data time on screen. So that is another consideration, but that's a lot of time spent on Facebook. This is also, by the way, why I always encourage people when they're using social media as a marketing tool, and I want to be super clear there, not as a consumer, as someone who's flicking through reels, who is just reading posts, who's kind of wasting time or dilly-dallying in Facebook groups. I encourage you to use social media as a tool, as an amazing platform, as a way to connect to your customers and would-be customers and leads and clients. I do not encourage you to use it overly for consumption. I don't think that part is healthy, but I do think that we can put some healthy boundaries around how we use social media without being a user of social media. Is that making sense? We can use social media without being on social media all the time. And in fact, I recorded an episode a while back with Lisa Cartwright, really brilliant mind when it comes to marketing strategy. And while she's on some social media platforms to a small degree, she usually batches her content. She is not on social media, right? She's not. She primarily focuses on ads, her YouTube channel, and her email list. So she's a really interesting person to follow anyway. So definitely go check the Social Media Magic podcast playlist here on YouTube or on your favorite listening app. And you can go find that conversation because it's really interesting. First of all, it's interesting because she talks about human design and business, and that is just fascinating in general. But she also talks about how you can be using social media strategically. We both really talk about it without being on there and a consumer of it. Really good episode. I also just want to put out there for a second, because I think there's this myth in the online digital marketing space, online business world, that Facebook isn't as big as some of the competitors when you think of like YouTube. It's hard to imagine a platform being bigger than Google or YouTube or even TikTok with how viral and how popular it's become in past years. But just to give you some perspective, YouTube, as big of a platform as it is, has 2.5 billion users, where Facebook has 3.1 billion users. And while that might not seem like a large amount of people, 2.5 versus 3.1, we're in the billions. So that volume is really amazing. Some other interesting insights that I really liked and was like, one was that the highest traffic time on Facebook is Wednesday at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., which totally makes sense. People getting to their work and maybe procrastinating before they dive into their day, or 3 p.m. when they're kind of ready to zone out and they're getting ready to go home. But they didn't say the time zone, so I'm not sure if they're just assuming Pacific time or what. By the way, this one is from backlinko.com. Very great resource on digital marketing, website traffic, all that good stuff. Here's another really interesting insight that you might actually raise your eyebrows at. Another prevailing myth is that Facebook is only for quote unquote moms, or people will say boomers or old people. I'm putting these all in quotes if you're listening, by the way. But that's not true. When they look at the data, and they have a lot of data because they have people's birth dates and all that stuff, this is another really incredible set of statistics, and that is the ages and the percentages of all people on these platforms. It's honestly really amazing and kind of scary and creepy how much data Meta, the company that owns Facebook, has. But I just want to share this with you because I found it so fascinating and kind of surprising. When we look at gender demographics, 77% of women in the US say they use Facebook versus 61% of men in the US. So while more women than men are on the platform, it's still a pretty large majority. 67% of people between the ages of 18 and 29, so this is Gen Z, which so many people say is not on Facebook, 67% of them are on Facebook, at least in the US. 75% of people in the US between the ages of 30 and 49, so those are the millennials and also some Gen X in there, are on Facebook. 69% of the people in the US between the ages of 50 and 64. So we have some Gen X going into baby boomers there. I was surprised by this one. 58% of people ages 65 plus are on the platform. So everybody is on Facebook. I don't mean everybody, it's not 100%, but that is a significant amount. So no matter who you're targeting, those people are on Facebook. Unless you are targeting people who are doing a digital detox, who are trying to live off the grid, then yeah, your marketing strategy is going to look completely different. But by and large, almost all the different demographics are on Facebook. Other factors like education level and net worth or income don't really affect this either because it's pretty marginal. If I look at least for the US, 63% of people earning less than $30,000 are on Facebook. 70% of people earning $30,000 to $69,000. 61% between $70,000 and $100,000. 68% of people earning more than $100,000 are on Facebook. So it's not even like Facebook is only for a certain person earning a certain amount or a certain age or a certain gender. Like everybody is on there. The average amount of time spent on Facebook is 31 minutes, which is still a lot. There was a lot of varying data in these different studies I saw. Some were saying that people were on average spending about 30 minutes a day on Facebook, whereas others were saying hours. I know that can vary a lot, and I know that also changed a lot over these past couple of years. Obviously, it was more time in 2020 because so many people were at home and spending so much time online, and it's definitely changed now, but not significantly. And in fact, with Facebook Reels and other features on Facebook, people are starting to spend more time on there. The amount of time spent definitely varies per demographic. So people between the ages of 55 and 64 tend to spend the most time on Facebook, up to an hour a day. Whereas people between the ages of 18 and 24 spend much less, 15 to 20 minutes. That totally makes sense when you consider the stage of life and what people are doing and their priorities. And also when you think about the people coming up really in this generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're digital natives. Millennials are very tech savvy, but we remember we were like the last latchkey kid generation, and then we saw the transition. These generations don't know anything different. So they grew up on Facebook, which just absolutely blows my mind. So they are not only on Facebook, they're on all these other platforms too. And that's why I'm always saying you don't ever want to rely on one source of income, one source of traffic, one social media platform, one content marketing platform. I'm really pro have as many touch points as possible in as many different ways as possible. So those were the facts. And I actually really love facts first. I just love a good alliteration. I'm even thinking about how I can incorporate that in more of my videos when I am making a claim, because there are so many different claims made online, and that's a whole other episode. But I do think it's important that when we're talking about things like data and trends, that we're actually looking at verifiable data, right? So yeah, really interesting stuff there. Just from looking at the data, the facts that I presented, and I encourage you to go through them, we can see Facebook itself is not dead. We know that our people are most likely there based on demographics. We know that people are on there almost every day based on user behavior. We know people are actually spending more time on the platform than they used to. But the question is, what are they doing? Why are they on the platform? What are they doing on the platform? What are they going to the platform for? And then what features are they using? I am always telling my students, my clients, to be students of the platform, to study it, to really understand it. So when you think of the platform as of Facebook overall, you have to think about the different features. What are the different features you can use? Well, you have your profile, right? And even within a profile, you have your feed, you have your photos, you have your reels, you have the Facebook Reels feed where you can just flick, just like on TikTok and on Instagram Reels. You have Facebook groups, you have Facebook Marketplace. So within the platform, you have all these different features, and each of them are all kind of like their own ecosystems. They have their own rules, they have things that work, and they all have subcultures and subsections depending on the niche and the people who are using them. So I know from my own qualitative evidence and personal experience, Facebook is very much active. And I always find it kind of funny that I see people asking these kinds of questions while on Facebook. Like they'll be in a Facebook group and they'll be asking, do people still engage in Facebook groups anymore? And it's like, well, yes, because you're doing that right now. But there's a reason why people are not engaging in your Facebook group or on your Facebook page or with your profile content. So the first part is we have to ask a different question, a better question, in order to get a better answer that will then lead us to getting a physical result, and ideally faster. So is Facebook dead? No, but what you might have been trying, your techniques for engagement, your content, your schedule, your delivery, your branding, all of that might not be working anymore. And that is a really hard realization to make. I made this TikTok a few years ago. Wow, it's weird to say a few years ago. I can't believe like 2020 and 2021 were a few years ago. But it's kind of making a joke of like, maybe they're just not into you. And that's part of it. But it's even more granular now. People are just brutal. They don't have time anymore. Now you all are different. You listening to this podcast, you watching this YouTube video, that's different. You are here because you're committed to learning the content. You are bought into the idea, or maybe we're just friends. Either way, I'm glad you're here. But when there's seeing you on social media, they do have a different purpose or intent. They might be going to interact and engage, especially if it's in a Facebook group or in a group chat, which Messenger is kind of like its own app, and it's also kind of lumped in with the Facebook family. So you have to ask yourself, how are people using this platform? How am I going to show up here? And which features, I should say, which sub-features within each feature are you going to use? So for example, if you have a Facebook group and you want for people to come join it, are you going to go live in there? Are you going to use polls? Are you going to post with a colored background and white text? Are you going to share photos? Are you going to share multiple photos? Are you going to mess with the gallery options? Are you going to use font formatting? These are all little granular questions, but it really does require you to become a student of the platform. And I'm sure that's partially why you're watching or listening to this podcast, right? You want to do better. You want to have results with social media, of course, if you're going to put the work and the energy in, and you definitely can. I see it happen with my clients all the time. They're getting leads and clients from there. They're getting product sales from there. They're getting people on their email list. I'm seeing this happen, and not even like a long funnel thing anymore. I am seeing Facebook Reels. I've been saying this for I think a year and a half, and anytime you hear somebody say something like this, you have to jump on it because you don't know how long that opportunity is going to be. In fact, it might already be dwindling. I don't know. I probably won't know until 3 to 6 months from now. But as of right now, when I am posting Reels for my clients on Facebook, they're getting immediate traction. Not only are the Facebook Reels getting pushed out to people, and sometimes they're getting a second and third win, which is really encouraging. Many people say if they're email marketing experts or YouTube experts, oh, don't do social media because you only get a 24-hour window. That's not true anymore. I am seeing really great content, and that is the key here. Great content, right? Asterisk, highlight, underline. I'm seeing great content get a second and third win. The platform recognizes it went well the first time. It's getting pushed out to more people. And if you have things set up strategically, if you're considering everything in the best practice for the feature on Facebook you're using, if you have a compelling, clear hook and call to action, and if people know right from seeing your content that they want to take that action, you can definitely make sales and get results. In fact, one service that we actually just added here at Verity Media is Done For You Reels. I've been really excited about this. I've been sharing them on my Instagram, by the way. So if you're not already following me on Instagram over at Brittany Verlinich, I actually share my clients' Reels to my platform so you can see what they look like, so you can get an example of the work. Sorry, I gotta open my window for my cat. 1 second. She's such a little weasel. I didn't want to open the window because then I get these little recording things in the back. There we go. That's a little bit better. We'll see if that lasts. So it's like almost sunset, so the light's all weird right now. Anyway, you have to become a student of the platform if you want to grow your Facebook group. The first thing you have to do is really learn the culture and the tech of Facebook groups. Figure out what's working in the Facebook groups that you engage in, the ones that you go to all the time. What do they have? Is it that you know that when you ask a question, someone's going to answer it quickly? Is it the quote unquote quality of people? I don't love that turn of phrase, but I just can't think of another one at the moment. But is it that you know that when you ask a question in that group, you're not just going to get an answer, but you're going to get a correct one, a good one? Is it that they have funny memes in there and people are always sharing and you know you're going to laugh? Another Facebook group that does a really good example of like the entertaining one is the photo editing ones. I can't even think of one's name at the moment, but there's this one Facebook group where they do photo edits. And it's really helpful because if you have a photo and you want the people in the background edited out, there's photographers in there that will help you out just for free. They just do it for free for funsies. But what they will also do for their own entertainment and for the entertainment of everybody in the group is they will do their own little fun edits and they'll just put random stuff in there. And the Facebook group has its own culture. Let me give you an example. I have seen so many editors put the white couch in the images and you're like, why a white couch? And it's because somebody at some point put a white couch in there and it just kind of stuck and it kind of became a meme within that specific group. So once you have like a shared language, a shared inside joke, then you know you're really building a community. It doesn't always have to be a serious community. It can just be a whole bunch of people who have a shared interest. They're all there for a same reason. And you want to create that in your Facebook group. And by the way, over the next couple of months, we're really diving deep into Facebook groups. So as you watch and listen, you're going to hear lots of practical tips for being able to create a community in your group. And we will talk about pages and personal profiles again very soon because those are important elements. And just to give you a little preview on those, no, pages are not dead. In fact, I am in another membership where they are blowing up. Now, I will say that having a Facebook page, I really personally use it more as a landing page because I tend to focus on organic, which means non-paid, free only marketing strategies here. Because I know that most of you here and watching this show, listening to this podcast, you're usually in the beginning stages or within the first couple of years. Or maybe you're making like $1,000 or $2,000 a month, but you can't afford to put ads behind it yet. Or maybe you're putting some ads, but you can't afford to do more. And there are some amazing people to go follow for ads. I love Zach Spuckler. His stuff stuff is great. Tracy Morgan, I haven't done her courses or anything, but I've heard, I think she has a membership now actually. She's another really good resource, and she's worked with a lot of TPT sellers. So if you sell on Teachers Pay Teachers, really great resource. But just be a student on the platform, and then also commit to your strategy. This is something that I think most people don't want to hear. You cannot do something for 2 weeks and say it doesn't work. I'm not saying that you're doing this if you're watching or listening, but I see this so often that people don't give a strategy enough time to work. And especially with social media, it takes time. And there is going to be an awkward period of time where you feel like you're not talking to anybody and you're recording by yourself and everything feels like a video game, doesn't even feel real. And you're like, what's the point? This is dumb. And then also compounded with the fact that you are building skills. So your first 50 reels, for example, aren't going to be that good. Probably, let's just be real. Your Facebook group, like the first 6 months might be a little bit awkward before you really build up a community in there, because who are you talking to? Who are you engaging with? Although I would encourage you, just as a mindset shift, if you have 5 people in there, still act as if it's 50,000 in the group, because one, you never know if and when it will grow that big, but also it's a respect thing for the people who are in there. Really show up and show out for them. They've opted into hearing more from you. They like your stuff. They might be customers of yours. They might be future customers. So we should respect them because they're humans anyway, but those are just like additional reasons. So in summary, Facebook is not dead. It's very much alive, engaged by every single gender and age demographic and income level and niche and occupation. For those of you watching this video, listening to this podcast episode, yeah, your person's on there. Teachers are on there. Moms are on there. Even my husband, who hates social media, is on Facebook. Now, he doesn't spend as much time on there as I do, but he's on there. So your challenge, and it is a challenge, is how do I find where they are? How do I get them to where I want for them to be? And how do I create content that makes them want to engage and then eventually buy and keep coming back on the platform? Because you're not just selling whatever products you have. You're selling the free, is one phrase that Faith Mariah, one of my mentors, likes to say. And it's a really good saying. It's like, why should they come to your Facebook group? Why should they engage in there? Because you are, every time you ask for a comment, a like or something, you are asking them to do something, like interrupting their scroll, getting in the way of them being lazy. Like, why should they do that? Even if they're not paying, they're still paying with their time, their energy, and attention. They're choosing to do that instead of something else, whether or not they realize that. So what can you do to make it good? One more thing about making your Facebook content better, because we will talk more practical and tactical in coming episodes, is stop relying on other people's templates, which is funny for me to say because I do have templates and I actually do love creating templates. But templates are only good if you know what you have to say in this space, what sets you apart, and why they should buy from you or listen to you over everybody else out there, especially other people who are talking about the same thing. And I don't want you to get too in your head about that. I'm not saying that there's not space for you, there's not room for you, that you can't be successful, but it's a fair question, especially now between AI and scams and all this fake weird stuff online, or just like people getting desperate financially. There's way more scammers now than there used to be. And also because people are hurting financially. Not everybody is. I want to be clear about that. I have seen the travel sector, I've seen a lot of sales privately, even though many people don't want to talk about it because they feel like it's kind of crass when other people are struggling, but there are definitely sales. You just have to figure out what are you going to focus on, and then how are you going to meet people where they're at in their content? How can your content be more helpful and useful? This is something I think about all the time. It's like, I want to also enjoy myself because I'm here making it, but how can I make this more helpful, more actionable? So that's why I decided to start sharing more news, right? I'm like, oh, this is really good for them to know. That's why I started going live on Fridays, by the way. Come check it out on Instagram at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Fridays on Instagram at Brittany Verlenich. I go live and I share what updates are on the platform that week and just other things in social media for you to know about. That also comes onto the podcast though. So if you're not on Instagram much yourself, you'll be able to start listening to those because they'll be repurposed for the podcast. But if you want to be there live and ask questions and stuff, then you can. But how can you be more helpful? I really like what I saw, and I want to say her name is Jennifer Finley Williams. So if you listen, this was such a good comment, and I can't remember if I said it or not, but I just read it and was like, yes. Right? You can never see people's like physical reaction, but was like, yes, it's so true. She said, teachers don't need more resources. They need more support. And I was like, yes, amen, for sure. If someone just wanted a worksheet, they can go on ChatGPT and whip it up in 5 minutes. I hate to say that because it makes what we do sound like there's no meaning behind it. Like, what's the point of continuing? But it's true. What you offer has to go beyond that. You are not offering worksheets, math worksheets. You are offering support for your teachers as they support their students through math fact fluency. Do you see how that sounds different? That even sounds more elevated in your messaging. And it also opens you up for all these other income streams and platforms. It makes you more clear in what you want to say. You don't just provide writing prompts. You help students develop a love for writing that's going to follow them throughout their lives. Oh, beautiful, right? And by the way, if you struggle to come up with this kind of stuff, if you ever want some ideas, message me on Instagram at Brittany Verlenich because I love it. But also, even if you are a writer, even if you consider yourself creative, because I've gone through this and it is so hard when you can't think of what you want to say, what sets you apart. But sometimes it takes somebody else saying it, because it's so hard to look at your own stuff. It really is. So if you want a deep dive, I actually do these one-on-one marketing strategy sessions. I'm really good at doing that for other people. I will look at your sales page, at your website, at your TPT store, and we will make a plan. Whether you need a long-term plan, like what am I going to do for long-form content? Should I do a blog, podcast, YouTube channel? What should I say on there? What should my episodes be about? Whether it's a short-form plan, as far as like, what should I say on TikTok, Instagram? What do I do when I'm recording the videos? How do I hold the camera? All that stuff. I am so willing to help you with that. I know how hard and overwhelming it can be, especially if you don't consider yourself a tech person, although you are. You can do it. Definitely check those out. If you want more information about that, you will find that in the episode description. I also have the link directly on my Instagram link, so you can grab it there as well. And if you don't want to deal with it at all, if you're like, I am done dealing with Facebook's games, I don't want to spend my time thinking about content and meeting my audience where they're at, that's fine. You can hire someone like me or my team, and we can come and do that for you. You'll see some of that information over on my Fiverr account. I will also link down below and then the episode description if you're listening, or you can send me a message on Instagram. I feel like I've said that 6 times, but if you're not already friends with me on there, you should be. I show all kinds of good stuff on there, but you can also send me a message there and we can talk about it. I'm a human. I'm not going to do anything scary. I don't do any high pressure sales or whatever, right? Because if you're not interested or you can't do it, it's not a big deal. But even if you tell me, because you can be honest about it and just say, oh, that's out of my price range, that's not in my budget, then I'll just point you to something that is, right? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I want to take away all the weirdness there, because I know I've been there too, where like when I was first starting out, I was looking for coaching and everything felt so out of budget for me. At that point, every coach was doing $5,000 packages. There was no one doing a one-off session for like less than $200. And so that was one thing I told myself, that if I ever did any coaching, I would have some kind of way for you to do a one-on-one session. I really want to encourage you to not just give up on Facebook because it's hard, because it is so worth it. Once you understand the platform, once you have things set up in the right way, once you understand who your audience is, what they want and what they need, and how you can provide that for them, and how you can make it sustainable and fun for yourself, which is a tall order, I know, but once you narrow those things down, everything else, honestly, everything else in marketing and sales gets so much easier. If you haven't already, definitely hit the follow button on your podcast player, or subscribe here on YouTube and hit the little like button just to let me know that you watched it and that you got some value out of this. You can also hit that little bell when you subscribe so that you never miss notifications of when a new video is posted. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Talk soon.